If Jesus didn't mean this, what else did he mean? You tell me. If this wasn't what he meant, what did he mean? He just told you, salt is good. And then he says, have salt in yourselves.
So people should just ignore this pastor who has said, oh, consume. Otherwise, if they choose not to ignore him and they are consuming salt like they are consuming ice cream, they are going to pay for it.
Exactly. It will cause a pandemic. But when
we listen to the so-called professionals, and many have died listening to them. Think how many people have suffered strokes and all kinds of ailments because they listen to their doctor. Think how many people have been afraid of salt. They say, oh, in fact, they've eliminated salt from their food. They don't want this because so much salt. Well, I thought so myself. I thought so too. I thought so. But this is why I talk to you about praying in tongues. Because from praying in tongues, the Spirit of God talks to me and He guides me. I speak in tongues and solutions come. So if you will pray in tongues, you'll be amazed what knowledge will be brought to you. The Bible tells us when we speak in tongues, we're speaking mysteries. Mysteries. And so when I speak in tongues, and then I interpret the mysteries to my understanding. Because in tongues, you don't know what you said. But with the gift of interpretation of tongues, you bring whatever information is given to you in the spirit into the natural realm so you can understand it. All right. So this is really remarkable. Really remarkable. And you have to let others know. You have to let others know. You need salt. More salt than less salt. And you just heard, they've actually been giving all the sick people that they're treating in the hospitals, they're giving them salt. But they don't know. They repackage it and sell it to you in different forms. But you had it at home all the while. Let me read 2 Kings chapter 2 from verse 19. When Elisha was in Jericho and the men of the city came to him, look what the Bible says. And the men of the city said unto Elisha, behold, I pray thee, the situation of this city is pleasant, as my Lord seeth. But the water is not. In other words, the water is bad. And the ground barren. So the water is bad. And he said, Elisha said, bring me a new cruse and put salt therein. And they brought it to him. And he went forth unto the spring of the waters and cast the salt in there and said, thus saith the Lord, I have healed these waters, and there shall not be from thence any more death or barren land. He used salt to heal the water. That's what God told him. He says it's salt they need. Go put salt in the water. And he went and put salt and prophesied no more deaths. And they were free. Let me show you an even more important one. You'll be surprised. How many know Jesus never lied to anybody? Jesus never lied. Jesus never exaggerated. Jesus spoke absolute truth. Watch. St. Mark's Gospel, chapter 9 and verse number 50. The words of Jesus, salt is good. Look at it. That's Jesus. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. They told you salt is bad, but Jesus said salt is good. All right, let's read the rest of it. But if the salt have lost its saltness, wherewith will ye season it? Read the next part. Have salt in yourselves and have peace one with another. Tell me. If Jesus didn't mean this, what else did he mean? You tell me. If this wasn't what he meant, what did he mean? He just told you, salt is good. And then he says, have salt in yourselves. What other interpretation do you want to give it? We just learned from the medical personnel that we listened to, they said a lot of people are sick because they don't have sufficient salt in themselves. That's why they're sick. And then the other guy said, for all the sick people in the hospitals all over the world, there's one thing that is common with all of them when they are admitted. There's one thing that's common with all of them. Intravenous salt. Salt is what they put into their bodies. Why did they do this? I told you, if you're well, the medical doctors will be broke. The pharmaceutical industry will be broke. So they can't afford for you to be very well. They need you to be sick. So they can't always tell you the truth. And many medical doctors find out about this late, some never discover. They think they're in a profession to help people get cured. After all, that's why they went to medical school. Until they meet the regulators and those who are from the Ministry of Health. They're not in the Ministry of Health. Let's say it a little better. Department of Health. Okay? In some countries like Nigeria, there's a Ministry of Health. Supposed to be, right? They call them ministries. So they're departments, but they are not in the Department of Health. Because they don't make anybody healthy. It's a pity. But see how evil, how much evil they've done to so many. So they know salt is cheap. But they repackage it to you, sell it to you in different forms, and tell you not to take enough salt in your food. And so you don't take it, then you get sick, then they sell it to you. You just heard from all those people. But the best to hear from is Jesus, and I just read his words to you. He'll never tell you salt is good if it's not good for you. But he just told you. So you want to be healthy? What's your diet now? Get more salt. Praise God. Yeah, you're going to be so healthy. Yeah. Because God sent me to bring his message to you and to help you in your journey of life.
Remember, even somewhere in East Africa, a pastor said people should go and be eating grass.
Yes.
And they foolishly went and they were eating grass. Just to obey somebody who's a human being just like them.
My pastor said,
these are gods of men, not men of God. That's who they are. And the whole people who read, because we don't need to be doctors, medical doctors, before we get some information. too much consumption of salt since I was a kid. My mom used to tell me, this will lead to hypertension and all that. Sure. And because of change in dietary attitude, we now have people as young as 7 years suffering from hypertension.
Absolutely.
People as young as 7 years having kidney failure. People as young as 6 years suffering from obesity. Abi? That's how you people pronounce it, not obesity. For many years, I was calling it obesity. It was my own.
I understand.
So, people must realize that things are changing. I've related an experience for when I went to Louth to do a documentary. I saw kids in the cancer ward. It troubled me. It troubled me for weeks. It troubled me, even up to today. Sometimes I still remember that encounter. Because I entered the ward, was allowed to take the camera into the ward, designed with sweet colors. No children like colors a lot. Exactly. But, man, it was tough. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings, even as journalists, and we have our emotions. To see a 7-year-old, 8-year-old suffering from cancer, you know how painful it can be, especially when chemotherapy is brought into the picture. It's an unbearable pain. But we can help mitigate some of these things by addressing the matter of what we ingest into our bodies. Where pastors are now telling people that they should consume salt in ample quantity, they are trying to push people to early graves. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, because it will damage your kidney, it will lead to hypertension.
Yes.
And all kinds of preventable
diseases.
Yes. This is, you can, on your own, you can even just check. Just check. And we can't be in a situation in where I was watching an interview, somebody was told, use Google. He refused. Because he knew if he used Google, he will be exposed right there as ignorant.
Okay, but
so you can, as we are discussing now, you can check what are the harmful effects of too much sodium consumption. Do you know, even Pringles, I stopped buying it for my children because the level of sodium in Pringles is unbearable. It's just too much. You can get children like it, you can consume it. But do you know the damage that it will be doing to their body incrementally? It could be several years down the line that you start paying. So people should just ignore this pastor who has said, consume. Otherwise, if they choose not to ignore him and they are consuming salt like they are consuming ice cream, they are going to pay for it.
It will cause a pandemic. But when, religious leaders misinform the public, especially in the area of health, who should hold them to account?
I think even Christians should hold them to account. Christians, governments.
Yes.
Say, I am unapologetic.
What is preaching?
Thank you very much. I also thought about this. I said, this man is in his 60s. Will any man in their right mind at that age be talking about much of sodium intake? Perhaps he's teaching what he would rather not practice. The funny thing is that when some of the members run into trouble, those that follow pastor sheepishly, they do not have access to, they cannot afford the kind of health care that these pastors can. If anything happens to Oyakilome today, he can fly abroad and get.
He has the funds.
He has the funds. But when when his members start having NCDs, non-communicable diseases, as a result of things like kidney failure, like heart issues or whatever it is.
And also, let's not forget some religious leaders who tell, don't go to the hospitals, come to church for healing. Instead of go to hospital.
There was a man, I don't want to
Mention.
Say pastor, because they will know who I'm talking about. I was close to him. When he died, his children went into his closet. His drawer was full of hypertensive drugs that he was not
taken.
We ignored it. And he suffered cardiac arrest and social.
Can you imagine that?
Now, if you're encouraging people to deliberately consume what will lead to high blood pressure, nobody is saying sodium does not have its use to the body. But things must be consumed in moderation. And what is suggested is 5 grams a day. That is the World Health Organization threshold, 5 grams a day. If you are telling people to consume more than that, then that means you know what those doctors do not know.
Absolutely.
And you must be ready to explain it. Maybe in a debate, let's get a scientist, a solid healthcare practitioner.
Exactly.
Let's have him spar with you so that you can share ideas.
Exactly.
Where is your idea coming from? When did you suddenly chance on this idea that you now want to sell to our people? Remember, even during COVID, some people were consuming salt. They thought that by consuming salt, and people died. Yes, some people died in the process. Our people should not listen to pastors sheepishly.
Exactly.
I will never be in that situation. I'm a Christian. I do my best to support God's work. Those who are close to me, they know that. A lot of my resources, go into supporting God's work. And I know that God likes charitable people. I try my best. I do that. I will not come and praise myself here. But I try my best to please God in my own way. I know I'm not a saint. I've never told anybody that I'm a saint.
Absolutely.
Especially if by doing that, I could actually cause people's death.
Absolutely.
There's no way that you will ingest salt in ample quantity that it won't have a terrible repercussion.
But anyway, because of our time, because of our time,
we just ask a one-liner.
We see. I just want our people to know that God is not against medical science.
Absolutely.
People should not be dispensing superstitions. Somebody had appendicitis, and it was Senator Judy told us this some time ago. Had appendicitis, and he was saying, look, it's ofaye, spiritual harrow. Until he said, please go to the hospital. And it was discovered that it was appendicitis. You have sicknesses, you have diseases, you are calling them ofaye, spiritual harrow, and all of that. And that's what I think
our people, ignorance is causing a whole lot of things. But anyway, let's move straight